Welcome to Author Life Podcast, where myself and guest authors share their stories, offer tips and advice, and share our writing, publishing, and marketing knowledge. I'm your host, Delcherie Gladden. Welcome back to the Write, Publish, Repeat podcast. Now, as I'm recording today, it is Halloween, so I thought it appropriate that the topic today deal with researching the paranormal. So today I'm going to be talking about 3 tips for researching the paranormal when you are planning to incorporate some sort of paranormal mythology or belief into a story you're writing. The blending of fiction genres has led to a variety of paranormal subgenres, from paranormal romance to even paranormal military fiction. You can find paranormal as a subgenre in just about all of the main fiction genres out there anymore. It's all over the place. And that's great for people who love paranormal fiction. Some people don't appreciate it as much, but that's okay. Everybody has their own interests. Now, a lot of this is happening because readers love paranormal fiction. There's a huge market for readers who are interested in all kinds of paranormal activity and belief and mythology, wide variety that people are interested in. Now, they love reading paranormal, but they expect paranormal fiction to be either factual, and we'll talk about what I mean by that in a minute, or unique. Now, at a later podcast, we'll talk about how to create your own paranormal or some other variety of non-realistic mythology and create that either based off of something or completely from scratch. That will be a different podcast in the future. But today, what we're going to talk about is how to research and incorporate paranormal into your story. Now, when we're talking about factual paranormal fiction, what do I mean? That may not seem like a term that makes a lot of sense, but we're going to kind of define that and discuss how we create factual paranormal fiction. So what I'm talking about is researching the common theories, terms, mythos, and culture when it comes to whatever paranormal or supernatural topic you're interested in. Writing paranormal sometimes sounds easy. I'll just throw in a vampire or ghost or, whatever, and boom, it's paranormal fiction. While you certainly can do that, that's not the best way to do that. Writing paranormal that truly draws in readers takes a little more than just having kind of this token paranormal character or experience. So today's podcast, we're going to talk about how to research paranormal and how to incorporate what you find into a convincing story that will capture readers' attention. So the first place to start with just about anything when you are writing is to do your research. Now, this can be a little bit tricky with paranormal because there is all kinds of stuff out there. So how do you find reliable information on your chosen paranormal topic? Like I said, that can be a tough question to answer because, for instance, if you are searching for ghosts, like I have been researching lately, if you type in ghosts or ghost hunting or how to talk to a ghost, you'll get all kinds of results from the absolutely bizarre to a pretty scientific breakdown of whatever topic you're looking for. And it can be all over the place in the answers you get. So a good way to approach this is that there are 2 questions and 2 aspects of researching the paranormal for a work of fiction. So we're going to talk about each of them individually. First, when you are evaluating the information that you find, it's important to remember that you're not necessarily looking for scientifically proven facts, because most likely you're not going to find them, for one. Even though there is a lot of paranormal research, it doesn't always agree. It can be kind of all over the place as far as the conclusions and, facts. So what you want to do is you want to look for a general consensus among the community of believers in whatever it is you're researching. Find out what are the hallmarks of belief. So I'll use the example of ghosts since that's what I've been researching lately. So what are the general beliefs about ghosts? What do most accept as standard? And what are some of the outlier theories? Because those may be something you want to follow and use as well. But definitely know what the standard beliefs are and know what is dismissed outright, even among believers, what is not okay, what is too out there, even for the standard community of believers. If you can, talk to people who actually believe and participate in the culture, in whatever it is you're researching. That can be hugely beneficial in creating a realistic setup for your storyline. It's important to understand the core beliefs of a paranormal topic in order to ground your story in the basics. And then, of course, you can kind of take it wherever you want after that, but there is a certain level of factual information that readers of a particular genre are going to expect. And you want to meet those expectations before you go beyond them. Okay, so the second aspect of researching paranormal that is important is that you need to learn about the culture as well as those facts that we talked about. Given that I've been working, like as I said, on the second book of the Ghost Host series, I've been researching topics like ghosts, ghost hunting, concepts of the soul and the afterlife, kind of a variety of those topics. And even though in my book, Echo doesn't need as many physical tools as the average ghost hunter, who can't see ghosts because she can see them, it's important that she knows what others are using because they're going to try to confirm her talents as well as explore their own paranormal experiences. Because in my book, Echo does see the ghosts, but none of her friends do, and so they benefit from using some of the normal tools of ghost hunting and ghost investigation. So I, had to do some research about what EMF and EVP are, what is the protocol for having a safe seance, what herbs are involved in ritual cleansings, and that sort of thing. So I needed to know the terminology, the tools, the implements, the different practices and protocols of my topic in order to create a believable storyline and setting for this group who are involved in the world of speaking with and looking for ghosts. So it's important, whatever your topic is, that you understand and know those same aspects of the culture of belief as well as the beliefs themselves. And that way you're going to be able to create a convincing world that your character can live in. Now, once you've done a lot of your research, then you come to the point where you have to apply what you've learned. And that can be a really tough part of research because, you're going through everything and you've learned a bazillion things about ghosts and ghost hunting, and it's all super fascinating and you want to share all of it, and you really can't. That completely overwhelms your reader if you're just like, and look what else I learned, and this and that and everything, and it's so cool. And they spend an entire chapter learning about EMF and they really just want to get back to the story. So all of the things that you have learned The majority of them you're not going to use, and that's okay. A mistake writers often make, especially when researching a new topic, is trying to cram everything in and then info dumping on their readers. But even though you have a group of readers who are interested in learning about ghosts, that doesn't necessarily mean they want a chemical breakdown of why salt may or may not disrupt spiritual energy. So, in order to incorporate your research into your stories, there are 2 questions you should ask. Now, the first question is this integral to the plot? If it is, if it's a part of your research that absolutely has to do with the main storyline or even a subplot, then you're going to blend your research into the story as you go. So don't just give your reader a whole bunch of information at once. We don't want to info dump on them. It's very overwhelming. You want to give the reader only what they need to know in each scene in order for them to suspend disbelief and stay involved in the story. So you're going to add bits and pieces of your research just as you would if you were leaving a breadcrumb trail. You want to give them just enough to follow along in the story and not overwhelm them. Think of it as writing for a reader who is not at all familiar with your chosen area of paranormal, and you need to ease them into it. You need to make them believe and give it to them a little bit at a time so they don't just throw their hands up and say, oh, too much, I can't handle all of this, I'm going to read something else. Now, the next question that you want to ask is, will this information help create a believable setting or world? So these are going to be kind of the bits and pieces that you're going to use throughout the story. They're not part of the main storyline, but you've got to set up that world and create rich, believable settings. In The Ghost Host, I mentioned that one of the characters sleeps with a hex bag under his bed. Now, other than just a brief mention of what might be included in a hex bag, I don't go into any more detail than that because the main story itself doesn't relate to the hex bags at all. It doesn't have anything to do with it. The only reason those are brought up is to illustrate that Kieran's character comes from a family that does believe in the occult, and he grew up believing in those practices, and he uses them in his day-to-day life without really thinking about it. They're just part of his belief system and part of who he is. And that helps to give you an idea of his character and why he doesn't find some of the stuff Echo has dealt with all that surprising, because he's kind of gotten involved in a lot of this strange or unusual things as a child and has grown up with that. And so it's more familiar to him than to some of the other characters. So he has different reactions to some of their experiences than what some of the other characters do. So that is an example of kind of using bits and pieces of what you find in research to augment your characters or your setting or your storyline, but you're just going to put in only the barest details of what you need so you don't overwhelm your readers. So if some aspect of your research that you found really interesting does not enhance the main storyline and does not help with world building or character development, don't include it. You can save that for some other story, put it away, put it in a file. But those are the 2 criteria of whether or not you should include something that you found in your research. Now, the last tip that I wanted to talk about when researching paranormal is how to suspend your own disbelief. When writing paranormal fiction, by its very nature, requires authors to write in a way that convinces readers to put aside what would be typical logic and science to accept the unexplainable as fact. Now, you can't convincingly do that unless you, as the writer, can do the same thing. Now, just because you write about vampires doesn't mean you have to believe in them. Clearly, plenty of people write about vampires or werewolves or ghosts that do not actually believe they exist, which is fine. But you do, however, need to believe that they could exist in the world you've created in order to convince a reader to believe the same thing. This requires the paranormal aspects of your story to hold equal weight with the plot and characters. Sometimes you'll have a book where you have a very brief mention of one character believing in something paranormal, at some point. It comes up in conversation and then it's kind of just abandoned. And when you have that does not constitute a complex blending of story and paranormal. If the main resolution of the story hinges on the paranormal, it shouldn't come as a surprise to the reader. No one likes getting involved in, say, a story that seems to be a coming-of-age type story, only to have a horde of ghosts jump out at the end to resolve some critical plot point. And unfortunately, that does happen. I have read books that, you're reading it, you're getting into the story, you think it's one thing, and then all of a sudden, boom, somebody's raising from the dead or conducting, metaphysical experiments and, what have you. That's very jarring for the reader. And they will most likely then not pick up one of your other books because they were surprised and maybe felt as though they did not get the type of book they thought they were getting. Now, even in, for example, The Sixth Sense, where the twist is that Bruce Willis is in fact a ghost, and the entire storyline outside of Bruce Willis' character revolved around the viewer believing that ghosts were real and that they involved themselves in the world of the living. That was a really important premise that they set up in the show, so that at the end, when it's revealed that Bruce Willis, in fact, has been dead the majority of the movie and is a ghost, yes, it was a great twist, especially if somebody didn't ruin it for you before you got to see the movie, which is what happened to me, darn it. It's a great twist, and it was very unexpected, but it fit within the world that had been created. It made sense to the viewer because they understood by that point, in the world of The Sixth Sense, ghosts did exist, and they did in fact interact with people in the living world in some way. So you had that basis, and then you're thrown the twist, and the twist is unexpected, but it still makes sense. Now consider, however, if you were watching The Sixth Sense, and through the first, 3/4 of the movie, the main storyline is only that there is a young boy with behavior problems and he is seeing a therapist, and you're watching their interactions. If there's no mention of ghosts, there's no mention of any sort of paranormal aspects at all, and you go 3/4 of the way through the movie and then find out, boom, Bruce Willis is dead. He's a ghost. He's been interacting with this little boy as a ghost the whole time. That would not have worked very well. It would have been very shocking, for sure, but it most likely would have been upsetting to the viewers because it would not have been a twist that fit within the world that had been created up to that point. And that is something that, as the writer, you really have to take into account and make sure that both parts, both your storyline and your characters and the paranormal aspects, play an equal role in developing the world and setting up whatever the resolution is going to be. And that way you're going to have a really good pairing and your readers will feel immersed in the world, and they'll be able to suspend their own disbelief in whatever paranormal aspect you're using, and they can accept what's going on as real and as logical and factual within the context of the world you've built. So just to kind of wrap up the discussion, just as when an author researches another culture or a specific location, some scientific breakthrough, or even a historical event, you have to do due diligence and fully research the topic in order to capture what you're researching and use it appropriately. There are many people around the world who believe in paranormal of all types. If you intend to write an authentic account of someone experiencing some sort of paranormal phenomena, you need to treat it the same way you would if you were writing about anything else. Your fiction may be someone else's real beliefs, and you need to be respectful of that and do enough research to convincingly portray that without, just kind of being offensive or disrespectful to the culture and to those who actually do believe, or just to those readers who are invested in a certain aspect and a certain system of beliefs. So approach it as you would any other type of research and create a really good, full, immersive experience. So hopefully these tips have been helpful in kind of guiding you toward researching your paranormal topic and incorporating it into your story to create a very full and immersive experience for your readers. Thanks again for listening to Author Life Podcast. For more information on the podcast or guest authors, check out the links in the show description. If there's a topic you'd like to learn more about, find me online and send me suggestions anytime.